Hey guys, this is Anon, and I am bringing you some T29 gameplay today. I'm going to go ahead and start off on Dead Rail with Alex Spartan, another Storm player, and this turns out to be a really nice battle. I've been meaning to do a T29 video for a while, because it's one of the most popular tanks in the game. It's been through nerfs and changes, but it still feels like kind of the quintessential heavy tank for Blitz. It is extremely well-rounded, it's fairly mobile, has an amazing turret with good gun depression, so you can really work ridge lines. It's just a hold-down monster, thus kind of the name of the video here with the big-headed beast. Because once it's hold down, it's just extremely hard to take care of. So I'm going to go ahead and head up into the hills like I pretty much always do with a tank that has a turret or a tank with speed, or most tanks in general, because I am not a big fan of Death Valley down there. Low ground loses more battles than it wins, so anytime you can take the high ground, I certainly will do it. And I can see right off the bat this was a fairly good choice. Red is popping up all over the place down in there, so I'm instantly, as soon as I get to the top, looking for any kind of gimme shots that they're gonna let us take when they pop up and have themselves exposed. Kind of through this process, we're going to lose a couple tanks that are stubborn and decide to go into the valley, but it's a little bit of a trade-off when you end up in the situation like I am here, because you can pick off some of the red tanks kind of on their way up. Even if you don't kill them, you can do some damage as they try to work their way back up into the high ground, which is the advantage always of having those high locations, that you have the opportunity to do a lot more damage to a tank trying to get up to your position than a tank going down to another position. So I start to rotate back over as my platoon mate and another green tank start to cap, which is going to force them up. So I'm looking for any shots here as they kind of come up. Unfortunately, it gets spotted. I was hoping not to, but I have this little hill line right here that keeps the tank fairly protected. If I drive out to get a shot, I know that front drive wheel is a little bit exposed, but it's still fairly good protection for the tank. So I'm looking to kind of take a cheap shot on this KV-1S through the train. I'm not quite getting it here, but I'm staying working on it a little bit, mostly because I can tell on the mini-map that there's not a lot of tanks that are more exposed for me. The T150 and T20 pop up. I start to aim on the T150, but realize the 20 is a bigger threat and lower health, so go ahead and take that shot. And I'm just kind of keeping an eye back on our team back here and seeing if I can help them a little bit on cap. It's been reset at this point. But it was never the super goal to cap in a situation like this. You'll take it if you can, but it's more of a way to kind of push red around, especially in a situation like this where we're already down so many tanks. Take a blind shot, which I assume is probably that T150 still, so I'm going to rotate back and work on anything that kind of works into the cap circle as kind of our last surviving teammate goes down. So it's just the two of us in a 2 versus 5, always difficult situation, but this is a lot of the reason why I've stayed in the location I have. The T29 is very, very strong uphill, as I've been talking about with that great turret, so I have a clear advantage right now. If I run down into town to try and save him, it just makes us both exposed, and the numbers will probably overwhelm us. So I'm going to hang out here and try and keep him alive as long as I can, but more prepare for that late game battle. I can see the T150 starting to move up to my left, but I'm trying to get rid of some of these bigger tier 7 guns. Unfortunately, get a bad RNG bounce there, but Alex is doing a great job of staying alive as long as possible because it draws fire. And it lets me start to work him down a little bit, but he knows he's not going to make it. He's just doing the best he can. I pop adrenaline right here because I'm hoping to get some free shots on this SU-100, which does at least let me get one in, but he rolls back into cover, so I can't finish it off. Again, I can see on the map that 150 coming, but I knew that the Victory was a good player, so I wanted to take the kill shot on that first, so he wasn't allowed to kind of run around the map. And now it lets me back up and put myself in a pretty much invincible situation on this 150. There's almost nothing he can do when I've got this high ground on him, looking completely down on him. So I just have to be careful more to the tanks to my right, which there I take a big shot, and so it means I've rolled back too far. I know Just from experience, there's a little lip right to my right on this ridgeline, so I know if I scoot forward just a little bit, he shouldn't be able to hit me anymore. But it's kind of just a fine line because I don't want to take a shot from the 150 on accident either. So kind of roll back just a little bit, and I'm just trying to see because I know there's a T20 rolling around also, and I figure he's been trying to flank me. So I'm going to roll back on the hill a little bit just to make sure I have a little more protection for my hole, and that's when he pops up exactly where I think he could, but unfortunately I couldn't roll back enough, so I take kind of a dangerous shot. And now's when cap's starting to be a little bit more of an issue. So I'm being a little careful. I'm just trying to get a spot. I'm hoping to bait the T20 out because I don't quite have enough gun depression to get him comfortably. I'm going to have to pop out a little bit more. So I was hoping to get him to come out and take that kill shot, but since he doesn't, it forces me to roll up just a little bit and hope for a good shot on his turret, which I get. And then switch to APCR for the end. I know there's a ton of APCR on this thing. It was actually for a training room battle, and I forgot to switch it back. I think both games actually have a big APCR loadout. But you can see that was my first round of APCR I've actually shot, so it's not a tank that needs a ton of it. So get a great shot on the SU because he hasn't gotten himself hidden, and now, which is actually smart since he rolled back, it makes it a little bit more of a toss-up. If he could use kind of his positioning, and the fact that he's lower to the ground than I am, he might have been able to win. So I'm coming up and really looking for shots underneath the train cars. But the T29 sits pretty high, so I'm not overly hopeful of getting that. That's why I start pushing over. But now I can see that his hole is just low enough that with APCR I can get some shots. So there you have to be careful not to roll back in between the cars, and luckily I'm able to dodge one of his shots and put that final kill shot in. So and T29, like I said, is all about keeping it protected. A 2 versus 5 is always difficult, but using a tank to his assets makes a big difference in the game, and I'm able to kind of pull out a clutch win there at the end. And of course, 4,300 damage is massive for any tier 7, so I'll certainly take that any day. Okay, so we're going to switch over to one more game where we're actually bottom tier this time, so a lot of tier 8s, and I'm platooned with XJS of Storm. You can see again, I forgot to switch out my APCR loadouts. I don't play the T29 that often, so it was probably there for a week or something. Just kept forgetting to notice it, but gonna do the traditional thing and work towards the base area. Depending on what kind of tank I'm in, I'm either going, and on this side of the map, I'm either going to go down into the bottom right corner and work some of the hills there, but when I'm in a heavy tank like this with a strong turret, I'm actually going to drop down and come up the side of cap here because the ridgeline or the natural grade of the hill keeps my tank fairly protected, and also on the back side of cap there's another fairly tall hill that I'm going to roll up onto and be aggressive with that generally lets you stay fairly protected as long as you're pretty aware of where the red tanks are popping up at you. So even though I'm in a tier 7, I'm being very aggressive here because this tank allows you to be, as long as you have the topography of the map to lean on. So I'm pushing up and run smack into another heavy, but luckily I'm able to roll back before he can get that shot off. I switched to APCR because he's got enough armor, but unfortunately he rolls back to block the shot. XJ is rolled up with me here too, also being aggressive, just being a good platoonate, but unfortunately we run into kind of the teeth of their attack force. So I'm getting myself protected while he rolls back, and also kind of scooting around. I'm trying to get a little bit of their attention so he doesn't have to take all the shots, and actually hang out a little bit too long once he is gone, so now I have to take a couple hits. But I also know because of the river here, I can roll straight back, so I get behind the building to protect and then just roll straight back off to kind of reset a little bit and give us time to adjust and make the changes we need to in this battle. We still have a lot of green support on this side of the map, so it's not a dire situation, and instead I use this kind of opportunity to push the flank because they don't have anything down here in this level. So I can kind of take a shot as I roll by, which you always want to do. I'm all for picking targets and shooting most dangerous tanks, but if you present yourself, I'm going to take the shot every time and then can kind of continue on. So again, just like the other side where I came up, and there's a lot, the topography allows me to protect my tank, I'm going to come up this side doing the exact same thing because there's a black prince sitting here, and if he were to turn and start shooting at me, when I roll back, there's nothing he can do. He might get a little lucky on my cupola if you give him time to aim, but I'm not going to give him time to aim because that's just good heavy play in general. So luckily he's not paying too much attention to me, and I can farm him a little bit because he's one of the more dangerous tanks that's left. That's a very, very strong tank if it's played well, an angling, but luckily, just the way any heavy is from the side, you can pretty much just rip straight through it, which I'm doing. Just at this point also trying to conserve hit points because I lost a little bit too many right off the bat, so I'm not going to roll forward and take extra damage unless I need to. So I can take that kill shot, and luckily the team has stepped up at this point and gotten us down to just 2 red tanks, which is a much better situation. So I'm going to go ahead and charge at that, knowing that we have a lot of support, even though they're behind me and you can tell they're not necessarily being super supportive. The way this map is designed, there's always going to be a lot of cover, so it lets me kind of move forward and know I'm going to have places to set up. If I come to this right side after they kill the tiger and they start to charge me, I know that my teammates, while they're not helping me press so much, will be right behind me, and if I draw them around the corner, they'll be able to take shots as well. So it's just about kind of knowing where you're at in position to make that decision whether you're going to push or kind of hold still. So doing exactly like I said and looking for shots. The tiger rolls around the corner, so I'm obviously going to shoot at that instead. I don't need to overexpose to work on the Kuro. He is going to have to expose himself to get any shots on me, and that's why I really don't want this Comet to poke his head out and die right there because it's unnecessary, and he would actually die in a pretty bad position. So instead I'm going to work my way in. You can see me giving a nice little wiggle right at the time. It's just about kind of having that mental note on the shots. I could kind of feel the shot coming and give the wiggle so that he's not going to be able to pen through my side and gets the tracks, able to do it again there. That's just good kind of experience gameplay to get in the habit of kind of throwing that last minute wiggle out to try and eat shells. So a couple really nice games with the T29. It's kind of a classic tank for me, and I think a lot of people as far as the heavies are concerned, so just some nice examples, and I hope that helps.